Arfield. 1-0 Burnley. Scott Arfield. He's been threatening that recently. And all the Burnley players run to the Darwin end.
Burnley win the next ball. Here's Rory now. On the outside. He's
Barnes! He got it! Ashley Barnes with it! What a cross from Rory! And there was Ashley Barnes! And Burnley leading the derby.
Obviously quickly finds Benson in space at the byline. Can Burnley get a goal here? Back for Brownell. Saved by the keeper.
Burnley won it to the end. That is magnificent. They deserve that.
20 by 4 for Teller. On for a hat-trick.
He's got it. Hat-trick for Nathan Teller. Oh, he's on fire at the minute. 3-0 Burnley. It's Nathan Teller's day.
And Burnley are 3 up here. Fantastic derby. Here's Benson. Can he go on the outside? Comes inside. Top shot.
Oh, the goal. Manuel Benson once more. That is top class.
Burnley have done it. Fantastic. The Clarets deserve the championship title. They've been the best side throughout the campaign. Burnley have won the second tier. What a fantastic achievement. The players have been magnificent.
Yes, hello everyone and welcome along to the latest instalment of the pre-game show here on the Turfcast Podcast YouTube channel and of course the Turfcast Podcast feed with me, Joe Redmond. And as usual, on this show, we always look ahead to the weekend's game. We are, of course, playing Watford, going on the back of an impressive comeback against Norwich, even if the first 45, 50, 60 minutes weren't great. And the first 62 seconds were absolutely awful. Well, fingers crossed we can now kick on and hit some form again like we did just before the recent draws. But as always, I am joined by a fan, usually, of the opposition. But as you can see, as always with the Do Not Scratch Your Eyes podcast, lads, they come normally in a trio, but Carlos has just had to go and have his dinner, I've been told. But I am pleased to introduce Pete and Justin. How are we doing, lads?
Very good, Joe. Lovely to be here.
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much. And trust me, if Carl's missus told me my dinner was ready, I'd be eating it now as well. So it's fair play.
Fair enough. Those of you that have been watching the podcast for a while will recognise both of you. I think we've just recorded the show on your channel, and I think we were trying to work out how many times we've been on each other's channels, and it's quite a lot now. And what I will say, lads, is I always love having you on, like genuinely probably my favourite guests, because it always just turns into a bit of a laugh and a bit of a free-for-all, and I absolutely love it. But also, I do want to say, and I should have said this on your show before we ended it, by the way, is the production values on your show has gone up tenfold. You're bringing in pictures and everything.
Oh, yes.
Fantastic.
We know no end of buggering about us. That's
and we do it all just for an audio only podcast as well. None of that will be seeing the light of day on YouTube or anything. That's just audio only. So yeah,
is that true?
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
I did not know that. Right. Okay. Well, that's just for my benefit then, and your own benefit, I presume. Well, yeah. Well, that's a shame then, because I'm bigging you up, and no one will get to see all that. But yeah, I do bring pictures in, but I don't bother with pre-game show. I just do it for full-time shows to bring in sort of like still frames of like penalty shouts or whatever. So I do appreciate that it can sometimes be a bit of a fiddle and stuff. So yeah, genuinely enjoyed that, lads, and it's always great to have you on. But anyway, let's get into the podcast. Saying obviously, Watford had an okay start to the season, I think it's fair to say. It's interesting, actually, because I had, like many people were probably the same as well. I didn't have Watford down as relegated, but I thought you'd be flirting with relegation and eventually stay up. But at the minute, knocking on the door of the playoffs, currently joint level on points with Middlesbrough. You must be pretty happy with how it's gone so far?
Yes, because I also had us down as being flirting with relegation at the beginning of the season. So massively happy with that, actually. It's a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde thing. We're not beaten at home or unbeaten at home since March last year. Away, we're pretty flaky. So it's sort of a two level thing, whereas at home we're pretty good, away we're usually pretty poor. So guess where we're going on Saturday? We're going away.
Yeah, I think most people are whenever something's not doing well in the game, and we kind of do a phone in, And whenever anybody's kind of being critical about what the manager has decided to do on that game, you have other people saying, but look at the league table, look at where we are and look where we all thought we were going to be. And it's absolutely right.
Yeah,
But we have had, like all football teams, we've had some games where we've done okay. I think our performances haven't been as good as the results that we've had. And some of the defeats that we've had on the road have been truly abominable performances.
great word, by the way.
Preston and Luton immediately fly to mind, and apologies obviously for the former for you, because we played them on the Tuesday, and then they came to yours on the Saturday sort of lunchtime. We got them on their uppers. They hadn't done anything. We went there and we just had no intention of doing anything seemingly, and they were then 3-0 up, and it was like, oh grief. So we've got kind of really good performances as we've had, pretty reasonable. We've got a medium kind of ground, but then we have got a fair few shockers in us potentially, and they tend to come out on the road rather than at home.
Yeah, well, I'll bring that up now then, because you both mentioned it now. Very good at home. I think at home, where are you now? We've already spoken about the home form. You're up in third in the home form league table, obviously. Overall, as I mentioned, you're in seventh. I don't have the great visuals like you guys do. Bring it on the screen. I'm just looking at it for myself now. But away from home, you have to actually scroll quite the way down to find Watford on the away form table. Only won 2 games away from home so far this season. Lost 6. Having said that, your last 2 were draws. So maybe you're getting a bit better. But my question is, lads, why are you so different? Why are you so good at Vicarage Road but so poor away from home?
I think we wish we knew, don't we, Peter? I think we wish we knew that. Do we know that?
Tom Cleverley, our manager, has come out and stated he wants to be front-footed at home, and there's probably only one game, which was QPR at home, which was a 0-0 draw. And if QPR could have finished their dinner, we would have lost our unbeaten run. Tom has not lost a home game since he took over, with 9 games to go of last season, and then he got given the role part the way through that kind of interim period. So we haven't lost at home, and sometimes that becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Away, he looks a little bit more. I mean, we went to Hull, and Hull were 24th, and we've played 3 of the bottom 5, and all of them we've only got a draw against. That's Plymouth, QPR, and Hull. And Hull, we just really didn't look like we wanted to bother showing up, and they were there for the taking. But we set up incredibly defensively, and didn't do it. So I think the mentality is at home, and with the crowd roaring on and trying to bring the crowd with you, that they'll go for it. Away from home, I think it's slightly less incentivized, and it's, you figure that a draw is a good result. That's genuinely my thoughts on it. Whether or not that's the case, God alone knows, because it's like everybody, we only see what we get to see. But it just doesn't feel like there is the same weight of expectation. Not the last draw that we had, but the one before that was away at Plymouth on a Friday night, and it was a great performance, better than probably any other away performances we've had. And Andre Gray, our previous joint player between us, who did nothing for Watford in the entire time he was there, spanked 2 worldies, one at the end of the first half, one right in the 96th minute. And at the end of that, he was like laughing and joking, and other Watford players were laughing and joking. I would be, basically kicking the living daylights out of the nearest, whatever kind of inanimate object was close to me, probably a referee, I imagine. And they were just kind of, they didn't look like they'd thrown it away. Tom was gutted, but we just don't seem to have the intensity there. But in fairness, Andre, he spanked 2 worldies. You can't take it away from him. It wasn't anything kind of that the team did.
Yeah, I do remember that doing the rounds on socials, and I do just want to point out now as well. Thank you for the 18 million for Andre Gray. At the time, I'm not going to lie to you, I was pretty gutted that we lost him, but I think with how well he ended up doing it, you guys, I think we ended up selling him at the right time. I think it's fair to say.
You think you were gutted when you lost him? We were gutted when you lost him. We got him.
Yeah, I think he's going to go down as one of the worst signings we've ever made.
Yeah, honestly.
Because his wages were so high as well. His wages were ridiculous. And there were a few things that he did during lockdown that weren't great as well. So, yeah, not a lot of love lost. And, of course, when he spanks in 2 worldies against you as well, it just adds salt to the wound, so to speak. Yeah. So, yeah, that was not a great game against Plymouth.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think he scored against us for you guys, actually. I think it was in the very early days of this podcast. And I remember doing a tweet because he were always offside for us. And I remember doing a tweet saying, Andre Gray, offside. Sorry, just getting ready for tomorrow. And then he scores and you win at the turf. And I think Watford fans picked up on that. And I ended up looking very silly, as I normally do, to be fair.
Yeah, we won 3-1 and Deeney pushed it across and he basically, it looked a great goal and it's probably the best finish by anybody's shin in the last millennia, I shouldn't wonder.
Yeah, I do remember as well. I think that was the first game of the new floodlights, bizarrely. But anyway, Tom Cleverley, obviously, gaffer, former player. How's he doing? It seems like you've finally made a good managerial appointment, and it seems like from the outside looking in, you might be sticking by this one.
Well, so far, yes, that does seem to be the case.
Just check.
Yeah, just check Google.
Give
it off.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. I put a thing out earlier, actually, which is sort of a half-season review. And one of the questions was rate Cleverley out of 10. And it was sort of 8.5s, 9s. You know, I think Watford fans have taken to him, which isn't difficult because obviously he came to us back in 2009, 2010. He got player of the season. Came back in 2015, 2016. 2017 was it? Had to end his career due to injury, otherwise he'd probably still be playing. And he just, there's something likable about Tom Cleverley that perhaps we haven't had in other managers over the past few seasons. So I think a lot of people want it to work, and I think importantly, you know, the higher echelons at the club want it to work as well. So it could be that he stays for a bit, and he's not doing anything wrong. You know, like, you know, we're much. I think we're achieving much higher than certainly I thought we were going to be doing. So personally, I think he's great, and long may that continue.
He seems incredibly comfortable in the skin of a manager. So, other than the game against Hull, I haven't heard one of his kind of post-match interviews where I've called, "Oh, that's BS." Against Hull, I was like, "Oh, crikey, come on," because but he doesn't throw his players under the bus. He doesn't go in and do that. So you have to accept about what he's doing. Other than that, and that is the most pedantic of gripes, he has been outstanding in everything he's done. Watford for the last 4 to 5 to 6 years has been a toxic environment. We've got, you know, as you know, we have an owner who basically has a blunderbuss for a management firing kind of strategy and just will occasionally fire it. There's a great thing by Exploding Heads, who do like a comedy thing, and they kind of do like the football talking about, oh well, he knows the club, doesn't he? Even though the club's changed and, you know, different people, but he knows the club, doesn't he? He does know the club. He has been there longer than anywhere else in his history. You know, throughout his game, he understands the game. He can literally show people his medals and his caps. You know, and so he's done incredibly well with far less than I think we've had in the squad available in the last, you know, the last 2 previous championship seasons. We have he is getting more from less, undoubtedly. We've got really exciting talent on the bench, whereas if you go back last year, when a lot of these players we had to hand, but they were nowhere to be seen. They weren't even on the fringes. And I'm sure we'll go on and talk about him. But a guy called Quadro Bar has basically spent the last 2 seasons since we signed him from Rochdale on loan at Burton Albion and Fortuna Düsseldorf in Bundesliga 2. He's now absolutely ripping it up and tore Manchester City in the League Cup to absolute shreds. And he's a unit. He's like a Adama Traore for Fulham or Wolves. He really is. And it's like, why on earth haven't we had him? And he knows seemingly when to put, you know, kind of arms round shoulders. I don't know whether or not he knows when to give somebody a good lashing or not. I'm not sure about that yet. We haven't seen it. But whatever he's doing, he seems to have the team going with him, with the exception of, as I say, 3 particularly abhorrent away performances where we just looked like a pub team who had literally just spilled out of the pub. That notwithstanding, and everybody does have them in all honesty. No, he's been incredible. And as I say, he just seems incredibly competent, confident and comfortable in front of a microphone and a TV camera and building the rapport back with the fans. So that toxic environment seems to have disappeared, which is cannot be overstated.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for all managers are former players, to be fair. So I guess this argument immediately falls flat on its face. But obviously, he's had media training all his life, so you would suspect he would be good in front of a camera and knows when to say the right things and stuff. But I look at him and I do think that's a decent young manager in the making who can go on to do some good things in the game. So I think you're onto a winner with Cleverley, if I'm honest.
We had and you'll have had them, and everybody will have had them. Managers who you watch a game and you think, "My God, that was awful," and then they come out and they try and pretend that it's only a conspiracy theory the size of the Kennedy assassination, and your lack of football knowledge that makes you not understand that this was a great performance and they really deserve to win. And you go, "I've looked at a different game." Other than the whole game, he has always spoken after, and you've gone completely recognised the game that you are talking about, and you have seen it as we have seen it, and so fair play, to that. Media trained, yes, but he doesn't doesn't try and pull the wool over anybody's eyes.
Yeah, I am still here. My camera has crashed. You may have noticed that.
Yeah.
If you are, I haven't even given a thumbs up. I don't know why it's done this. Again, people who watch regularly will see this happen on the full time show a lot. Some people, Claret and Blue 1882, if you're listening to this, they even have these crashed camera images with the fireworks behind me as their YouTube profile pictures. So Clarets Blue 1882 might be about to get a new profile picture looking at that, but the show will go on. It
Well
doesn't
done,
seem
well
to be
done, sir, for whoever's doing that. Top quality.
It doesn't seem to be unfreezing at the minute. I'm doing the thing that I usually do. We'll just have to go with it. We'll see what happens. Thankfully, hopefully, the camera is still downloading its own thing and I can just do some editing afterwards. But if not, you'll just have to put up with the frozen Joe for this show. Anyway, sticking with Tom Cleverley, I do want to ask about his style of play. How does he play? How do Watford set up? Like, how can we expect Watford to play at Turf Moor? Because a lot of Burnley fans will be listening to this with anticipation because we want a team to come to the Turf Moor and we want them to attack us because we are sick of teams sitting in a low block and us struggling to break them down. It might be very difficult to take me seriously at this stage when you're staring at a frozen thing like that. But if you can give me an answer and let me know on Watford's style of play this season, please.
Do you want to go, Just, or shall I?
No, I'll let you do it, Pete. You can do. It's very it's front-footed, I would say. So that might be
That's great news for us.
Yeah, yeah.
It is front-footed, and in terms of formations, we started off the season with a sort of a 3-4-3, but it's more like a 3-4-2-1. So one of the things that the club had done was buy lots of wingers and or kind of number 10s and then play them out as out and out wingers either side of a central striker. When he comes in, he plays that 3-4-2-1. It allows him to play kind of two number 10s to either get in and around, or to drift wide, or to drop into the midfield and kind of bulk it out if we want to, depending on which particular player is playing those particular roles. So we've done an awful lot of that. We have also switched to a 4-3-3, which we previously played anyway, and everybody is relatively comfortable with. However, last Saturday, on the back of the away performance at Hull, which was midweek, where we had gone with none of our attacking outlets, we switched to a 4-2-3-1. And in the three behind the striker, we had a young lad called Rocco Vata, who we signed for about 200,000. It was the kind of compensation to the academy payment. At wide left, we had a gentleman called Georgie Chakfatadze, who's been lighting up the championship all season in what would be the traditional number 10 role, and wide right was the aforementioned Quadro Bar, who is somewhere between a winger and somebody who can play a little bit more centrally and attack the kind of half spaces, as the local kind of, or the recent kind of parlance is. And we were really front footed, and we should have been 3 or 4 up by the time West Brom pulled one back and made it a tighter affair at the end. And it was probably our most attacking game to play. However, there is this kind of duality between how, as I say, Tom looks at points on the road and points at home, simply because in the first 10 or 12 games of the season, we either won or we lost. And if we were at home, we were winning, and if we were away, we were losing. And so, in his mind, the last 2 draws that we've got have been more points than he got in the first 6 away games. So that's sort of how he is. So we were having a real kind of debate as to whether or not we would go and be as forthright and so attacking, or whether or not we might sit a little bit deeper and then hit you on the break. We might have any number of those combinations and any number of the approaches. The 4-2-3-1 looked really nice because we suddenly had all of the attacking intent, and frankly, West Brom could not live with it for the first half whatsoever. But so I imagine we'll probably come and play football is the ideal.
Well, I think most Burnley fans would take that. And it's interesting to hear you say you might go to 4-2-3-1, or you did do in your last game and you're not sure if you do it on this one, because that's exactly how we set up. So it'd be interesting to see if you try and go like for like. I think if you try and go like for us, again, that might play in our favour. You would hope that we have the better squad, the better players, but we have been a little bit too slow in moving the ball. So even if you do go 4-2-3-1 and have a little bit more attacking impetus about you to what we have shown this season, then who knows? I think the midfield battle, I say it every single time because I know how important our midfield can be. It's going to be massive in this game, as it always is, especially if you matches up. But again, I would think if we have the likes of Brownhill, Hannibal, Loren, Fleming, Cullen, we should be able to win that midfield battle. But again, you might disagree. I'm not sure. But I do want to ask actually about ambitions for the season, because obviously we touched on it earlier. Justin, you did say like you were similar to me. You thought Watford were going to have a poor season, flirt with relegation, but ultimately stay up. But now you find yourselves, like I said earlier, in 7th, I think it is.
Yep.
In 7th, level on points with the playoffs. There are teams above you that you would suspect would fall out of the playoffs, like Blackburn. And there are teams underneath you that you would suspect will eventually put a run together and maybe get above you, like your West Broms. And that's pretty much it, really, when I'm looking underneath you. I mean, maybe Norwich and other than that. So what are your ambitions for the season now, then? Is it consolidate this top 10 finish, or is it, no, come on, let's push for these playoffs because we might not get another chance again?
That's a good question. I mean, if you look at the table, we've actually also got a game in hand because we didn't play Cardiff. It was called off due to the storms. I don't know. I mean, obviously, you get to where we are in the league at this time of the season, you think, oh, it'd be nice, wouldn't it, to put a run together and, look at maybe getting into the playoffs or whatever. But when your expectations like mine were, let's not get relegated this season, I think maybe we are, overachieving at the moment, in my mind. Probably not in the mind of Tom Cleverley and the players, but in my mind, we're overachieving. It would be nice to be up there at the end of the season because I think there's been a lot of better football played this season. The last couple of seasons have been dire. I mean, it's been an absolute chore going to watch Watford to the point where you're thinking, oh, can I be bothered to go? But certainly this season, you think, okay, there's a chance that, at Vicarage Road, I'm going to see a fairly decent game, apart from QPR, as Peter pointed out earlier on. So I don't know. I'd like to see us challenging, but are we ready for the Premier League? No, I don't think we are.
Is anyone?
Well, is anyone? Good question. Good question. I think we need to do some business in January. I think we probably need to. I don't know, it sounds like a strange thing to say when Bio has got 9 goals in 19 games, but I think we probably need to have a striker sort of pushing him because, Jebison, who we've got on loan from Bournemouth, isn't doing anything at all whatsoever. So if anything happens to Bio, we're going to be, pretty desperate up front. But I think, I don't know, I'd be happy now, as of now, middle of December, to be mid-table, pushing for the playoffs at the end of the season. I don't have any ambitions to go up, but it's one of those things that if it does happen, it'd be really, really nice. And it'd be good for Tom as well, because he's just been fantastic as a manager so far.
I think I'm not worried about the team so much around us, because whilst I talked about, obviously, we haven't beaten anybody in the bottom 5, because of the rest of our season, we've done incredibly well against teams around us, with the exception of Norwich in that area. Anybody within the playoffs, other than the top 2 of Leeds United and Sheffield United, we've beaten. and we've made look, not silly. We've not won by huge margins, literally on any game. Most of our wins are by the single goal, but I haven't really been impressed with the championship throughout this season in terms of the quality of it. What we need to do is start beating the teams down the bottom area that we should be beating, rather than kind
Yeah.
of dropping points unnecessarily. But again, the performances are so non-dominant, if that makes sense. That even when we do win them, we are kind of winning by close margins. You have to try to work out, and this is why people are saying, but it's still more than we were expecting to have. So what would we have? So taking a look at it, I'm not bothered about the playoffs. Genuinely, I'm not. I think the playoffs is just a great opportunity for the FA to further rape and pillage the average football fan for going to Wembley for £105. How can you do it and yet make a profit when there's only 80,000 of us in the ground? So I'm not worried about that. I would rather see us have a bit of organic progression under this manager, because
Yeah.
everybody knows it, and we've said it about it for the last 8 years, something like that. No Watford manager or no Watford fan wants the manager to be on like a revolving door process. We want there to be something to be built that a manager can get hold of and do something, or head coach, or however you want to describe him, and then become something, have time to become. We feel like we're at the beginning of something here that's not that far off being pretty good, one or maybe two transfer windows, so that, in January and then maybe in the summer, we could really be threatening to potentially be one of those established top six teams and then go into it a little bit better. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. Nobody is ever ready to go up into the Premier League. Um, and you've seen the amount of chaos going up and then coming down, and the changing of players and having to go out, and the movement of money, or contracts rather, to kind of make sure everything's ready just in case you don't get back up again. It is a difficulty. I'd like to see a little bit more consistency. So yeah, if we make the playoffs, then of course I will enjoy it, and of course I'll find the money to go 8 miles down the road to Wembley and watch us. Whatever happens, you're there to witness it. But no. There's no pressure on Tom to have to do that from our side. The most important thing he's done is bring the fans and the club and join it all together, and then make progression on the pitch. Because for several years we haven't done that at all. We've just been in kind of stasis, just drifting.
Yeah, completely agree. You do look a lot better this season, but that brings us on nicely, obviously, to Watford. So, who are the players that Burnley fans should be wary of this weekend? If anyone's going to hurt Burnley, and maybe put in a surprise performance and get at our defenders, who is that person going to be?
Well, Peter's already mentioned Quadwo Bar. If he plays, he always looks lively going forward. Rocco Vata, 19 years old, as Peter said, a couple of 100,000 from Celtic. Looks like a lot of fun. He hasn't really had a long stretch of games, but when he comes on, he looks like a lot of fun. And Georgie Chekfadadze as well, just absolutely lovely to watch. Does lots of carrying the ball forward from midfield, beats lots of players. If he had a final ball or a decent shot on him, he'd be in the Premier League. He wouldn't be at Watford. So he's not quite there as the all-round player that is going to wow, but he's definitely one to watch, I would say.
And now I'm going to say, only because you used the word, if somebody was going to have a surprising performance, and it would surprise us, even though he has scored 9 goals. But the forward that we've got is vacuum bio, and sometimes he's just not even worth being on the pitch, and we keep getting told, and Tom often will turn around and talk about how he's shutting people down and how he's doing his work back to goal, and and you look at it and go, really, he's not really. Then you see him turn up, and suddenly he'll smack a worldie against, he did one previously against Rotherham where we all went, oh my God, he's got a left foot, and secondly, is he actually left-footed? Because that would explain a lot, because he's been rubbish with his right. And then he just pinged a beautiful one against Derby earlier on in the season. He went and did one of those kind of, if you remember Alan Shearer against Blackburn in the, when Blackburn were a decent side. I appreciate how much that will hurt you guys to listen to. But you remember when he was against Norwich and he just basically lifted it over the keeper when he was just running through. He got a hat-trick away against Sheffield Wednesday. And we all just went, what? How? Who? Him? What? And he didn't. He went on to get 4 in that game. And it was just, oh, wow. So if he turns up and he hits a purple patch, then whoopee do. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, you know what? I'm very interested to see how Bar and is it Veta do, because
Batter.
you mentioned
Rocco
Vata, yeah, because you mentioned earlier about the 4-2-3-1. So I would imagine that them two would be the wide forwards in
Yeah.
that system, and I want to compare them to ours because I think we have two players that can be very, 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 very good wide forwards, especially in the Championship, in Jadon Anthony and Luca Koleoshaw, who could do it in the Premier League. But my God, they've both been ridiculously out of form so far this season. Koleoshaw's had 2 or 3 good games, if that, and Anthony's probably around similar. They both have it in the locker, but they're both just not producing. So I am very interested to see how them two do in comparison to what will probably be our wide forwards in Anthony and Koleoshaw.
In terms of the battle in midfield, we'll probably have Musa Sissoko in there, who is an old Musa Sissoko basically.
Yeah.
So we'll see how well he turns up. But as an example of one of those players who was like literally not there, we bought him in the Premiership from Nantes in France, a fairly diminutive lad called Imran Louza, who's a left-footed midfielder. Decent free kick taker, decent set pieces, was nowhere near it for the last 2 seasons. Absolutely nowhere near it. Went off to, I think it was Lorient in France, and got relegated last season. Tom's now got him playing. He's taken a long time to pull in, even in this season. He's only been in for about the last 7 or 8 games. He's currently running midfields, and he's got a lot of quality, and is suddenly looking like he's no longer feeling sorry for himself being in the Championship, playing in kind of in a suburb of northwest London. You all know what that's like when you get those players who go in the Premiership, come back down, take a pay cut, and wonder what they're doing here.
We've had a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, he's one who's not got the move for whatever reason. Rumor was he'd had some personal problems as well, etc., which seemed to settle down, and he now looks like he's playing with determination, effort, smile on his face, and he's giving us when he plays well, really quite a bit of quality from midfield, which again we've lacked previously. So fingers crossed from us. Obviously, you'll hope you don't get to see it, but I think it might be an interesting footballing game on Saturday with both teams with some quality available.
I do always like to see these little sort of like chess moves in the middle of the pitch, Sissoko against Cullen sort of thing, or whatever. It's going to be interesting. Sissoko's a lot taller than Cullen, if memory serves. But that should be interesting.
Yeah, he's quite tall, we see.
Yeah.
Well, Sissoko has been, relatively speaking, being carried by Imran Louza, and a few occasions he's been dropped to the bench. He can't play 3 games in a week, and we all know that. With the wonderful number of international breaks, there's a whole host of midweek games that come at you. So he's having to be, he's a leader off the park as well as on it when he's playing. But there are some times when he had a 3-game suspension, and that included that Sheffield Wednesday 6-2 away drubbing that we gave them. So yeah.
Yeah, interesting then. Any injuries or suspensions that we need to be wary of? Any big injuries that you might have? Because we've got quite a lot, and they seem to be piling up for Burnley.
We haven't got a huge amount. Tom Deli Bashiru, who would normally be sitting alongside Sissoko, has been out for a little while. He's got an ongoing kind of got to be managed. Ogbonna, who we bought from West Ham in the last kind of knockings of the transfer window, so he took 2 or 3 weeks from the end of the transfer window to come in, came in and played, and just looks a class act. He is now training again, and I think Tom had said he might be available for Burnley. But I mean, he's 36 and hadn't played for ages, and they gave him his debut away at Man City. And other than we were going through a spate of conceding goals, literally in the first 4 minutes of every single game. Other than us giving one of those away, he's just looked imperious. Unfortunately, he got injured. So I think when he comes back, he will come back in. He would have to play in a 3. So that will determine what we do. I suspect we will go to 3-4-3 rather than having or 3-4-2-1, I would say. And we might play one of the more, shall we say, solid players in, probably Kayembe away, because he's one of those who'll more kind of sit in and make a central 3 rather than leaving them exposed. so we might end up doing what we did against Hull. But we played the same kind of team and formation away at Plymouth and played really well. But for Mr. Andre Gray's 2 moments of pure footballing genius, never those words have ever been accrued to him.
I was going to say that.
Ever.
I was just going to say that. I guess we'll start looking to wrap it up. But before we do, lads, let's get predictions in, please.
Well, I would imagine that we're not going to win, just because our away form would dictate that we're not going to win. I would like to think that we'll score a goal. So I'm going to go for a 1-1, Joe.
Interesting.
He's only doing that because I won't let him predict 1-1 on our show. However, that's exactly what I would also predict. For the same reason, I think we'll go away. We'll try and make it. We will try and make it difficult for you, but we will try and play. A lot of games this season, we've kind of killed the first half, and then kind of opened up in the second half a little bit more when it's a little bit more ragged. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if we do that as a 3-4-2, 3-4-2-1. But we do now have the flexibility and the personnel to change that. Bearing in mind, we'd switched to this 4-2-3-1, and we've got effectively 2 or 3 right backs to select from. And we went with Jeremy Ngakia, who's an out-and-out fullback, and he got played and had played really, really well in a 4. And they were relatively solid. I have to say that. When we switched to a 3, sometimes there's a little bit more ambiguity. Is that your ball? Is that mine? Is that central? Is that left central? Is that my channel? Who's that? And sometimes you kind of just wonder about these things. So we will see what happens. But no, I'd say if we come away from Turf Moor, I'm going to paraphrase what Carl said on ours, which is if we come away from Turf Moor with a point, that is a step in the right direction to actually moving towards playoffs.
There you go. Carlos is here in spirit. He might be currently stuffing his face, but he is here in spirit. I'm going to go 2-1 to the Clarets. I do think you'll score simply because we've come up against a couple of teams recently that are a little bit more front-footed in your Middlesbrough and your Norwich. They've both scored against us, and in both of them, there were poor goals to concede from Burnley. Now, our defence has been brilliant. It is statistically, as I said on your show, the best defence in the Championship, having only conceded 8 goals. But it was a poor goal to concede against Middlesbrough, and a poor goal to concede against Norwich. And we did concede a couple of chances against Derby, which James Trafford had to make a couple of saves. So I do think we are a little bit more susceptible at the back than our record suggests, especially in recent weeks. So I do think you get a goal. However, I think we should have enough to get it over the line, especially with your away form. I think if it was at Vicarage Road, despite our away form being the best in the league, I do think it would be a little bit harder for us to get the result because of how good you are at Vicarage Road. But yeah, I'm going to go 2-1 to the Clarets, and fingers crossed, obviously, that I'm correct. But I'm sure you boys will disagree. Before we do wrap it up, lads, and we say our goodbyes for another few months, do you want to let everyone know where they can find you and your Watford content if they want to digest any?
Certainly. We're available everywhere, really. We're on Spotify, we're on YouTube, we're on TikTok. What's our website again, Peter? DoNotScratchYourEyes.com, is that correct?
Yes, that's the one. Thank you for paying so close attention.
That's fine. That's fine. So we're there as well. But yeah, Spotify and Apple Music or whatever it is, Apple Podcasts. I'm not very up on Apple, I have to say, more of a Spotify person, but we're everywhere that really podcasts can be found. So if you want to check us out, Do Not Scratch Your Eyes is us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I recommend it. Sorry, Pete, what are you going to say something then?
I was going to say, of course, there is also going to be an interesting subplot going on in the dugouts because obviously mindful that we were coming to the home of designer knitwear with Scott Parker in your dugout. On Saturday, Tom Cleverley was sporting a rather garish-looking Prada green and blue jacket that got many comments. So it'd be interesting to see the battle of the kind of designer outfits going on in the ex-Premiership dugouts.
Yeah, is the $4.5 Tom Brown coat going to outdo the Prada jacket? Who knows? I guess we'll find out on Saturday, won't we? But yeah, obviously, just to go back slightly, obviously, you boys then just mentioned where everybody can find the Do Not Scratch Your Eyes podcast. I know I say this every week, but I genuinely recommend this one. The lads are a barrel of laughs, and Carlos is there as well. No, I'm joking. I've only said that because he's not here. I've only said that because he's not here.
Can I have a clip of that,
but
please? I want a clip of that.
But I always enjoy recording
well.
with these boys, so I definitely recommend it. And we've just recorded a show as well, which again was a lot of fun, and the production values had gone up a lot, even though you can't see them good production values. And you know what I actually did enjoy, which is bizarre now you're saying you can't see it, is you put loads of pictures of Burnley up for that video, and I'm looking at this video thinking, oh, the town centre, oh, that's the university and the college, and nobody's going to get to see that.
Yeah,
No.
we will do that. Sorry, we have with our predictions. It's all a big prediction league, and we have an owner and a dog who make predictions, and they've decided to kind of go into basically producing small videos that send through to us.
I loved it.
We do often add those up for Twitter because people kind of follow what they're doing. But it's fairly bizarre because the dog is in I think 5th place at the moment, just a place above Justin currently. So really what you needed to have here was Jarvis Cocker Spaniel. That's who you wanted to know if you really wanted to know what was going to go on.
Yeah,
and thank you very much for letting us know about the singing ringing tree as well as being a place to visit in Burnley.
Yes, I do find that funny that some Watford fans might be going up to look at that. Us, when it's, I'll be careful not to do an accidental thumbs up. When it's not pitch black outside, which is pretty much all the time at the minute, you can actually see it from this office window. You can see it. Nice. Yeah. So it's bizarre. People in Burnley just think it's a singing ringing tree, but like you was mentioning on the pod, some people might actually be going up to take a look at it, and that's just bizarre to me. We have the Weaver's Triangle as well, which is like not the Weaver's Triangle. What's it called now? There's like an old cotton mill museum. Is that the Weaver's Triangle?
Yeah, that was. I was going to pick that, but when I saw the singing ringing tree, I thought, no, it's got to be that.
Yeah. I guess Townley Hall as well. That's nice, and that's near the turf. That is in walking distance as well. So
I think we do. I think we do need to just explain to any confused Burnley fans. Is basically we have a segment called Justin's somewhat disappointing local attraction segment. So every time we play an away game, we see whether or not Justin can basically, with the use of misinformation, get some Watford fans to kind of go to various places. He has actually included on these the MOT test centre in Hull, a chartered accountancy firm in Millwall, and others have been applied. All of them don't have very good TripAdvisor reports normally. So that's the kind of thing
the
we do.
Alpaca Sanctuary in Norwich, I think it was. There's been all sorts of weird and wonderful places we've sent people. Sometimes they go there and take pictures. Where was it? Was it Sheffield Cathedral? I think someone went and took photos last.
Yes.
It's a service we provide, Joe.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed some Watford fans do get a chance to see the singing ringing tree. Fingers crossed it's singing, because obviously one of the reviews you read out said some guy said he couldn't hear a thing. I don't know what he's on about. I've took my dog up there plenty of times, and it definitely makes a noise. But yeah, let me know if you see it, if anyone tags you in any pictures or anything, because I'll retweet them myself. But we'll wrap it up there, lads. Thank you ever so much for going on the show. It's good to have you back. That's one of the I'm going to say many benefits, but I'm not sure I can go that far. But one of the benefits of being back in the Championship, obviously, although we started recording these podcasts together in the Premier League, but it is one of the benefits. Always enjoy recording the show with you boys. Good luck for the rest of the season, but of course, after this weekend.
Likewise, thank you very much. I would give you a thumbs up, but I don't want my my video to freeze, so I won't do that, Joe.
Yeah, I'm not. It's just me that does it, mate. It's just me. But thank you very much, lads, and I guess I'll see you in a few months.
You will.
Cheers, guys. See you soon.